Sometimes, the smallest whimper in the dark can change a life forever. The night was restless, the kind that made even the bravest souls uneasy. Rain poured relentlessly over quiet countryside, turning the dirt roads into rivers of mud. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the rolling hills and the silhouette of a small veterinary clinic perched at the edge of town. Inside, the warm glow of a single lamp flickered through the window, a fragile beacon against the storm. Dr. Emma Carter, the town's only veterinarian, hadn't left her clinic in over 20 hours. Her scrubs were wrinkled, her eyes heavy with fatigue. But her heart refused to rest. The storm had driven in countless emergencies, frightened horses, a cat struck by debris, and even a farmer's injured cow. She was cleaning her instruments when a sound pierced through the thunder. Faint, desperate, and heartbreaking. At first, she thought it was the wind, but then it came again, weak, trembling, pleading. Emma's instincts kicked in. She grabbed her raincoat, flashlight, and ran out into the storm. The cold rain stung her face as she followed the sound down the gravel road. Her boots splashing through puddles. The wind howled, almost pushing her back. But that cry, it guided her like a compass of compassion. She found at the foot of the clinic's porch a collapsed German shepherd, soaked to the bone, trembling violently. Mud clung to her fur and her eyes, half open, held a look of unbearable pain and exhaustion. Her sides were heaving rapidly. Emma knelt beside her, her heart tightening. "Oh no, you poor girl," Emma whispered, gently running her fingers to the dog's tangled fur. "You're in labor, aren't you?" The dog whimpered weakly in response, as if begging for help. Emma scooped her into her arms, ignoring the cold and weight, and rushed her inside. The warmth of the clinic hit them both like a breath of mercy. She laid the dog on a soft blanket, quickly assessing her condition. Her pulse was faint, body temperature dangerously low, breathing shallow, and her belly swollen with unborn puppies. Emma exhaled shakily. "You've been out there for hours," she murmured, "but you held on. You're a fighter." She moved fast, warming towels, setting up in four, checking for fetal heartbeats. But what she saw next made her chest tighten even more. The puppies were alive, but barely, and the mother's strength was fading fast. If she didn't act now, she'd lose them all. As Emma worked, her assistant, a young trainee named Lucas, hurried into the room, startled by the chaos. "Dr. Carter, I thought you went home hours ago." "Oh my God, is she?" Emma cut him off gently, but firmly. "Yes, she's in critical condition. We need to stabilize her before she can deliver. Prepare the oxygen mask and heat pad, quickly." Lucas nodded, his hands trembling as he fetched supplies. The storm raged outside, thunder shaking the walls. But inside, all that mattered was a fragile rhythm of life hanging in the air. Minutes turned into an hour. Emma's voice was calm but sharp, guiding Lucas through every step. "More saline. Check her heart rate. Don't let her temperature drop." The German shepherd's eyes fluttered open for a brief moment. Emma leaned close, her voice soft. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now. I've got you." Something in that moment, that quiet trust between them, struck Emma deeply. She had seen hundreds of animals in distress, but this one felt different. There was a strange strength beneath the weakness, a silent story behind those eyes. Finally, after what felt like forever, the monitors steadied. The dog's breathing grew more regular, but the fight wasn't over. "She's stable enough for now," Emma said, exhaling deeply. "But her body's too weak for natural birth. We'll need to perform an emergency C-section." Lucas's eyes widened. "Tonight, in this storm, life doesn't wait for perfect weather," she said with a faint, tired smile. The surgery room buzzed with tension. The power flickered twice, the generator humming to life just in time. The sound of the rain and thunder became background music to the beeping monitors and the metallic clatter of instruments. Emma took a deep breath, gloved up, and looked down at the fragile lifeline before her. "Hang in there, girl. You've come this far. Don't give up now." The procedure began. Every second felt like an eternity. Emma's hands moved with precision, her mind focused, her heart pounding. One by one, the puppies were delivered, 6 in total, each one fragile, tiny and still. Lucas held his breath as Emma rubbed the first puppy gently with a warm towel. Come on," she whispered. Then a faint squeak, and another. Tears welled in Emma's eyes as life returned to the room. The chorus of soft cries filled the clinic, the most beautiful sound she could imagine. "They're alive," Lucas said, voice trembling. Emma nodded, smiling through her exhaustion. "Yeah, they're fighters just like their mom." But when she turned back to the mother, her smile faded. The German shepherd's breathing had slowed, her eyes half closed. The monitors beeped irregularly. No, stay with me," Emma pleaded, pressing her hands gently against the dog's chest. "You did it. You saved them. You can't leave them now." Lucas handed her the oxygen mask, panic rising, her pressures dropping fast. Emma worked furiously, adrenaline taking over, massage in the heart, increasing oxygen, whispering words of encouragement that came from somewhere deep in her soul. You're not just a mother, you're a miracle. Please don't give up. The seconds dragged, the thunder rolled, and then a soft, trembling breath. Emma froze, then exhaled in relief as the monitors stabilized. The dog had found one last ounce of strength. Lucas wiped his eyes. She's a fighter. Emma smiled faintly, stroking the dog's paw. Yeah, and she's got 6 reasons to keep fighting. By dawn, the storm had eased. The sun peeked over the hills, casting golden light through the clinic windows. The German shepherd slept peacefully, surrounded by her nursing puppies. Emma sat beside her, sipping cold coffee, her heart heavy but hopeful. Lucas entered quietly. You think she'll make it? Emma looked at the mother and smiled softly. She already did the impossible. She reached for the clipboard to note the patient's information, but there was no tag, no collar, no name. Emma thought for a moment, then wrote something down. Name, Hope, she whispered, because that's what she brought back tonight. Outside, the storm clouds drifted away. Inside, the clinic was filled with tiny sound of life. A reminder that sometimes miracles arrive on 4 paws and a heartbeat. When life gives you a second chance, it rarely comes wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it comes bleeding, broken, and begging for love. The morning sun filtered through the clinic's windows, painting soft golden lines across the floor. The storm had left the town quiet, washed clean by the night's chaos. Birds sang timidly outside, as if testing whether peace had truly returned. Inside the small countryside clinic, peace was fragile, but it was there. Dr. Emma Carter stood by the recovery table, her coffee cold and forgotten. Her eyes were fixed on the German shepherd resting beneath a soft blanket, her breathing steady now. 6 tiny puppies nestled beside her, their small bodies twitching as they nursed. Emma had named her Hope last night, and as she watched the new mother sleep, the name felt more fitting than ever. Morning, Doc, Lucas said quietly, stepping into the room with 2 steaming cups of coffee. His hair was still damp from the rain. His uniform looked like it had slept in a chair. She's holding on? Emma nodded. For now, her vitals are improving, but she's not out of the woods. Her body's been through hell. Malnutrition, exposure, exhaustion. She must have been wandering for days. Lucas handed her the cup. You think she's a stray? Emma sighed, gently lifting one of Hope's paws to check her foreline. Maybe she was abandoned when she got pregnant. Happens more often than I'd like to admit. Lucas's jaw tightened. People are heartless sometimes. Emma looked at him, really looked, and saw the anger in his young face. Not people, Lucas. Just some. But others spend their whole lives trying to fix what the cruel ones break. She smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her tired face. And that's what we do. Hours passed in soft rhythm, the beep of monitors, the hum of the generator, the tiny sighs of puppies. Hope remained calm, her eyes occasionally opening to watch Emma. There was trust there now, fragile, new, but real. Emma gently stroked her fur. You did good, Mama, she whispered. They're beautiful. Hope responded with a soft whine, pressing her nose into Emma's hand. It was a small gesture, but it made Emma's throat tighten. She had seen that look before, in rescue dogs, in broken animals who had once belonged to someone but were forgotten. It was a look that asked, am I safe here? Yes, Emma whispered. You're safe now. By afternoon, the clinic had visitors. The storm had flooded parts of town, and locals came by to check on their animals. Among them was Martha Greer, a kind-faced woman in her 70s who ran the small animal shelter down the road. She stepped into the clinic, her boots leaving muddy prints, her eyes warm and sharp as ever. Emma Carter, she said with a knowing smile. Heard you pulled off another miracle last night. Emma chuckled tiredly. You could say that. Meet Hope. Martha leaned over the enclosure, her smile softening as she saw the sleeping mother and her puppies. Well, aren't you a brave girl? She whispered, brushing a tear from her cheek. What's her story? Found her outside the clinic during the storm, Emma said. Barely alive. She must have been searching for somewhere safe to give birth. Martha nodded slowly, her expression turning thoughtful. You know, I think I've seen her before. Or at least one that looks like her. A few months back, there was a family on the west side of town, the Millers. Their dog went missing, pregnant too. Emma straightened. The Millers? The ones who lost their barn in that fire last spring. Yes, poor souls. They moved out after the fire, never did find their dog. You think this could be her? Emma looked at Hope again. If she is, she's been through a lot. Martha smiled gently. She deserves to find a way home. That night, after the last patient had gone and the clinic was quiet again, Emma sat at her desk scrolling through old local posts. Sure enough, she found it. A picture from 6 months ago. A smiling couple standing in front of their farm. A German shepherd sitting proudly at their feet. The caption read, "Our girl Daisy, soon to be a mama." Emma's heart clenched. The resemblance was undeniable. The same eyes, the same markings, the same gentle expression. She turned to look at the kennel where Hope lay with her puppies. "So, your name isn't Hope?" she whispered softly. "It's Daisy." The dog lifted her head, as if hearing her name from some distant memory. Emma smiled sadly. "You've been through hell, Daisy. But maybe, just maybe, we can bring you home." The next few days passed in a tender rhythm. Daisy regained her strength, eating small meals, walking short distances with Emma's help. The puppies grew stronger too, little bundles of fur and squeaks, always hungry, always clinging close to their mother. Lucas couldn't get enough of them. "I'm naming this one Bandit," he said one morning, holding up a tiny pup with a black patch over one eye. Emma laughed. "You know they're not yours, right?" "Doesn't matter," he said, grinning. "He looks like trouble." Emma smiled but felt a quiet ache. Each day that passed, she grew more attached to Daisy, to the puppies, to the peace they brought into the clinic. She knew it wasn't just about saving them. It was about what they had given her in return. For months, Emma had been running herself into exhaustion, trying to keep the clinic afloat after her father's passing. He had been the heart of the place, Dr. Richard Carter, the man who had taught her that every life, no matter how small, mattered. Since his death, the clinic had felt emptier, colder. But now, with Daisy and her pups filling the space with warmth and life, something inside Emma was healing too. One evening, as Emma was cleaning up, Lucas approached her with his phone in hand. "Doc, I think I found them." She looked up. "Found who?" "The Millers," he said, scrolling through a Facebook profile. "They're living a few towns over now. Open a little mechanic shop. I sent them a message about Daisy. Didn't know if I should, but I figured they'd want to know." Emma's heart skipped. You did the right thing. They waited for hours, refreshing the page, until finally, a reply. It was from Grace Miller. Her message was short, but full of emotion. "Oh my God, is it really her? Please tell me it's our Daisy. We've been looking for her for so long." Emma stared at the screen, her throat tight. "She's going to come," she whispered. "They'll come for her." Daisy lifted her head as if sensing something. A shift in the air, a name she hadn't heard in months. Emma knelt beside her and stroked her fur. "You're going home soon, girl." But as Daisy's eyes met hers, something unspoken passed between them, a kind of fear, as if the dog wasn't sure where home really was anymore. The next morning, the bell above the clinic door jingled. A woman stood there, her face pale, her eyes glistening with tears. Grace Miller. She froze the moment she saw Daisy. "Daisy," she whispered. The German shepherd lifted her head, ears twitching, then recognition. Her tail gave a weak wag, and a sound escaped her throat, half whine, half cry. Grace dropped to her knees, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Oh, my baby, I thought I'd lost you forever." Emma watched quietly, her chest aching. It was a reunion that transcended words, a moment where pain, hope, and love all collided in one trembling heartbeat. Grace wrapped her arms around Daisy, sobbing softly. "I never stopped looking," she whispered. "Not for one day." Emma smiled, blinking back her own tears. "She fought her way back to you." Grace nodded, kissing Daisy's head. She always had a brave heart. But as Grace turned her eyes toward the nursing puppies, her expression faltered. "Wait, these are hers." "Yes," Emma said gently. "All 6, born during the storm." Grace's lips trembled. She's still saving lives, even now. As Grace sat with Daisy, Emma stepped outside, letting the cool wind brush against her face. The clouds had cleared, revealing a sky of soft blue and promise. Emma watched quietly, her chest aching. It was a reunion that transcended words, a moment where pain, hope, and love all collided in one trembling heartbeat. Grace wrapped her arms around Daisy, sobbing softly. "I never stopped looking," she whispered. "Not for one day." Emma smiled, blinking back her own tears. "She fought her way back to you." Grace nodded, kissing Daisy's head. She always had a brave heart. But as Grace turned her eyes toward the nursing puppies, her expression faltered. "Wait, these are hers." "Yes," Emma said gently. "All 6, born during the storm." Grace's lips trembled. She's still saving lives, even now. As Grace sat with Daisy, Emma stepped outside, letting the cool wind brush against her face. The clouds had cleared, revealing a sky of soft blue and promise. She looked back to the window, at Daisy, Grace, and the 6 tiny miracles that had survived the impossible. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt something deep and pure settle in her chest. Peace. And yet, She couldn't shake the feeling that Daisy's story wasn't over. There was still something left, something waiting in the shadows of what came next. Every scar tells a story, but some stories are buried so deep, it takes love to bring them to light. The morning was still and bright, the kind of quiet that comes only after pain. Dew shimmered on the clinic windows, and the faint hum of life returned to the small town. Inside, Dr. Emma Carter watched as Grace Miller sat beside Daisy's enclosure, her hands trembling gently over the dog's head. The reunion had been emotional, to say the least. There were tears, laughter, disbelief, and gratitude that words could hardly express. But behind Grace's smile, Emma sensed something else await she couldn't quite name. Grace's husband, Tom Miller, arrived a few hours later. His face was roughened by months of hard work and grief, but when he saw Daisy, the tough exterior shattered. "Daisy," he whispered, his voice cracking. He knelt beside her, running his calloused hands along her fur. "You made it home, girl." Daisy lifted her head, weak but joyful, licking his hand as if to say, "I tried. I really did." Emma watched quietly from the doorway. The scene before her felt almost sacred, like witnessing a soul find its missing piece. Tom turned to Emma, emotion thick in his throat. "I don't know how to thank you, doctor. We thought she was gone. After the fire, we searched the woods for weeks." Emma nodded softly. She's been through a lot. Malnourished, injured, but she never gave up. That's how she ended up here. Grace smiled faintly through tears. "That's our Daisy. Always stubborn, always brave." Later that afternoon, after the Millers had gone to rest at a nearby inn, Emma began her rounds. The clinic was calm again, the smell of disinfectant mixing with the soft scent of hay and medicine. But something about Daisy lingered in Emma's thoughts, a question that wouldn't let her go. While changing the bandages on Daisy's leg, Emma noticed something she hadn't before. Beneath the healing cuts and dirt, faint scars lined her body, not from the recent storm or childbirth, but older ones, linear, deliberate, almost surgical. Her brow furrowed. "Where did you get these, girl?" Daisy's tail thumped weakly, unaware of concern in Emma's eyes. Emma called out, "Lucas, can you bring me Daisy's x-rays?" He hurried over with the folder. "What's up?" Emma spread the images across the table. Her heart sank. There were small metallic fragments embedded near Daisy's shoulder and rib cage, too consistent to be random. Lucas frowned. "Is that?" "Bullet fragments," Emma said quietly. Lucas's eyes widened. "You mean someone shot her?" Emma nodded slowly, her stomach tightening. "At close range, by the looks of it, but she survived. Somehow." The room went silent, except for the rhythmic beeping of the monitors. Lucas whispered, "Who would shoot a pregnant dog?" Emma didn't answer. She just stared at Daisy, who looked back with those gentle, forgiving eyes, and wondered how something so pure could endure such cruelty. That evening, Grace and Tom returned to the clinic. Daisy's tail wagged weakly at the sight of them. Grace smiled and knelt beside her again, whispering, "Hey, sweetheart, we missed you so much." Emma hesitated for a moment, then decided to ask, "Grace, I found something during Daisy's exam. I think you should know." Grace's smile faded. "What is it?" Emma showed her the x-rays. "She's been shot more than once. The fragments are old, but they're still there." Grace stared at the image in shock. "Shot? But how?" "When?" Tom's jaw tightened, his fist clenching. "You think someone did this on purpose?" Emma sighed softly. "It's possible. She didn't get those wounds running through the woods. They're too precise." Grace looked down at Daisy, tears filling her eyes. "My God, who would hurt her?" Tom shook his head, his face pale with anger. "When the fire happened, we lost everything. I thought she ran off because she was scared. But what if—" He stopped himself. Emma watched him carefully. "What if what?" Tom hesitated, then spoke quietly. "Before the fire, we had a disagreement with a man who used to work for us, a drifter named Wayne Porter. He helped around the barn, feeding the livestock. We let him stay in the shed for a few months when times were tough." Grace's hands trembled. "Tom, don't." He nodded grimly. "One night, he came back drunk. I caught him stealing fuel from our storage. We argued. He threatened us, said we'd regret it. A week later, the barn burned down. The sheriff said it was an accident, but Grace wiped her tears. We always wondered." Emma felt a chill crawl up her spine. "You think he might have hurt Daisy too?" Tom exhaled sharply. "He hated that dog. Said she was too nosy, always barking whenever he came near. I wouldn't put it past him." The room fell silent again. Daisy shifted slightly, resting her head on Grace's knee. Her eyes, tired, knowing, seemed to hold secrets she couldn't speak. Over the next few days, the clinic became a place of quiet recovery. Daisy's strength grew little by little. She began standing again, eating on her own, even taking slow steps around the room while her puppies tumbled over each other. Lucas laughed softly one morning. "Look at her document. You wouldn't believe she almost didn't make it." Emma smiled. "That's the thing about survivors. They never stopped fighting. But even as she said it, something in the back of her mind kept turning. Wayne Porter, the fire, the gunshot scars. It all painted a darker picture. And when she noticed a faint tattooed number inside Daisy's ear, barely visible under the fur, her suspicion deepened. She gently lifted Daisy's ear closer to the light. What's this? It wasn't a standard ID tattoo. It looked crudely done, like something marked by hand, not a clinic. Emma took a photo in search of records, but nothing came up. Curiosity gnawed at her. She reached out to Sheriff Hayes, an old friend of her father's, to ask for information about any recent animal abuse or illegal breeding cases in the area. The sheriff listened quietly, then said, Emma, I shouldn't be saying this, but there's been a small operation suspected of running unlicensed breeding kennels out by the Old Mill Road. Rumors say they use stray dogs, especially shepherds, but we never had enough proof. Emma's chest tightened. You think Daisy came from there? It's possible, Hayes said. If she escaped, she might have been running for her life. Emma looked at Daisy, now nursing her pups peacefully. The thought made her heart ache. All this time, the dog had been fighting not just for survival, but for freedom. That night, after everyone had gone home, Emma sat beside Daisy's pen. The clinic was silent, except for the soft breathing of animals. The light above flickered as a moth brushed against it. She whispered softly, You've been through so much, haven't you, girl? You carried those babies through storms, bullets, hunger, and you still made it. Daisy's eyes met hers, calm, warm, and ancient in their wisdom. Emma smiled sadly. You know, I used to think I was saving you, but maybe you're saving me. She reached in and stroked her head gently. Daisy leaned into the touch, a soft sigh escaping her. The next morning, Sheriff Hayes stopped by the clinic. His hat was soaked with morning dew, his expression grave. Emma, he said quietly, you might want to sit down. She frowned. What happened? He handed her a folded piece of paper. It was a report, an update on a recent police search near the Old Mill Road. They found the remains of a burned kennel, cages, chains, and traces of animal blood. The report listed one possible suspect still at large. Name, Wayne Porter. Last seen near the eastern woods. Emma's heart pounded. Hayes sighed. We think he's still around. And if Daisy escaped from there, he might come looking for her. Emma looked through the glass at Daisy, who was licking one of her pups clean, blissfully unaware of the danger that still lurked outside. Her voice trembled slightly. Then we'll keep her safe, whatever it takes. Some monsters don't hide in the dark. They walk in plain sight, waiting for the moment hope finally feels safe enough to breathe. The storm had passed, but peace never truly settled over the countryside. The air carried an uneasy stillness, like the world itself was holding its breath. For a few days, the clinic felt almost normal, laughter, life, and the soft cries of 6 growing puppies. Yet beneath that gentle calm, something unseen was watching. Dr. Emma Carter tried to ignore the feeling. She told herself it was exhaustion, the weight of too many sleepless nights. But deep down, she knew better. Daisy had started to sense it too. She would stiffen at certain sounds outside, the crunch of gravel, the creak of the wind through the trees, and her ears would perk sharply toward the window. The once gentle shepherd, now stronger every day, stood protectively over her puppies whenever the night grew too quiet. Emma noticed it the first time at dusk. The sun had just dipped below the hills, and the clinic was bathed in amber light. Lucas was cleaning the floors, humming softly, when Daisy suddenly growled, a low, rumbling sound Emma had never heard from her before. Whoa, Lucas said, freezing mid-step. What's got into her? Emma's heart jumped. Easy, girl. She knelt beside Daisy, stroking her fur. But the dog's eyes were locked on the window. Outside, nothing moved, just trees swaying in the fading light. But Emma felt it, that instinctive chill, the same one Daisy felt. Later that night, after Lucas had gone home, Emma sat at her desk reviewing patient files. The clinic was silent except for the ticking wall clock and the soft breathing of sleeping animals. Her father's old radio sat in the corner, its static hum comforting. She was halfway through a report when headlights swept across the front windows. Her pen froze. No one ever visited this late. Emma rose, moving to the door. A pickup truck idled outside, engine growling. The lights dimmed, then shut off completely, leaving the world in darkness. Hello? She called through the glass. We're closed for the night. No answer. Her pulse quickened. She reached for the phone, then froze as she heard the faint crunch of boots on gravel. Someone was walking toward the clinic. Daisy started barking from the recovery room. Sharp, protective barks that made Emma's stomach tighten. She flipped the porch light on, but it barely pierced the shadows. Who's out there? A man's voice drifted through the rain-damp air. Evening, ma'am. Sorry to bother you so late. Emma's hand stayed on the door. Do you need help? The voice came closer, slow, deliberate. Heard you got a dog here. A German shepherd. Pretty one. Emma's blood ran cold. Who are you? The man stepped into the light. His clothes were worn, mud-stained. A ragged beard framed a face that might have once been handsome, but now looked hardened by cruelty. His eyes, pale gray and sharp, locked onto hers with unsettling calm. Name's Wayne Porter, he said softly. I think you got something that belongs to me. Daisy's growls deepened, her body pressed protectively over her puppies. Emma swallowed hard. That dog was found injured and abandoned. She's under my care now, and under police protection, if you must know. Wayne smiled faintly, but it never reached his eyes. That's so, 'cause I remember a dog that ran off with my tag still in her ear. Emma glanced at the faint tattoo she'd found earlier. You marked her? Property mark, he said. For my breeding business. She's worth money. Emma's voice sharpened. You mean the illegal operation the sheriff shut down? Something flickered in his eyes. Anger, quickly masked. You don't know what you're talking about, lady. That dog's mine. And I aim to take her back. Emma's heart thudded. You need to leave. Right now. He took another step toward the door, boots scraping against the porch. Funny thing about dogs. They always come back to their rightful owner before she could respond. Daisy lunged forward from the other room, barking ferociously. The noise shattered the tension, echoing through the clinic. Wayne sneered. She remembers me. Smart mutt. That was enough for Emma. She slammed the bolt on the door and backed away, grabbing her phone. Sheriff Hayes, she whispered when he answered. He's here. Wayne Porter. He's at my clinic. Stay inside. Hayes ordered. I'm on my way. Lock everything. Minutes felt like hours. Wayne lingered outside, pacing, his shadow stretching across the windows. Every so often, he'd tap the glass with his knuckles. A slow, deliberate rhythm that made Emma's skin crawl. Can't hide her forever, Doc, he called. She's mine. Daisy barked louder, her body trembling, torn between fear and fury. Emma crouched beside her, whispering, It's okay, girl. Help's coming. Then headlights appeared down the road. Sheriff Hayes' cruiser. Wayne's figure turned toward the light, then vanished into the darkness before Hayes even stepped out. The sheriff burst through the door moments later. You all right? Emma nodded shakily. He was here. I swear he knew about Daisy. Hayes scanned the trees with his flashlight. He's gone for now, but he'll try again. I'll station a deputy outside for the night. You're not alone. Emma exhaled, her body trembling as the adrenaline drained away. Daisy pressed against her leg, whimpering softly. Emma hugged her tightly. You're safe. Sweetheart, I won't let him take you. By morning, the clinic was wrapped in uneasy quiet. Hayes had left after sunrise, promising extra patrols. But the encounter had changed everything. Lucas noticed it immediately when he arrived. Doc, you look like you didn't sleep. I didn't, she admitted. He came here, Lucas. Wayne Porter. He knows where Daisy is. Lucas's face paled. What? Are you serious? She nodded. We need to be careful. Keep the doors locked, the lights on. No one gets in unless I say so. He swallowed hard. You think he'll come back? Emma looked toward Daisy's pen, where the mother dog watched her every move with knowing eyes. Yes, she said quietly, because monsters don't give up what they think they own. Over the next few days, Emma worked in constant tension. Every noise outside set her on edge. Every car that passed made Daisy bark. Sheriff Hayes stopped by twice, but Wayne remained a ghost, seen by no one, always just out of reach, until Thursday night. It was late again, too late. Lucas had gone home, and the clinic was dim, lit only by a small desk lamp. Emma was updating charts when Daisy started pacing, ears pricked, tail stiff. Then the lights flickered and went out. Her heart slammed against her ribs. The generator hadn't kicked on. Total darkness swallowed the room. Lucas, she called instinctively, forgetting he wasn't there. A moment later, a voice drifted through the darkness, soft, mocking. Told you I'd be back. Wayne. Emma's breath hitched. She groped for her flashlight, hand shaking. The beam cut through the dark, just in time to catch a shadow moving past the window. She darted to the phone, but the line was dead. Daisy barked furiously now, teeth bared. Her puppies whimpered, sensing their mother's fear. Emma whispered, Stay with them, girl. She grabbed a small tranquilizer gun she kept for emergencies, her palms slick with sweat. Outside, the back door creaked. Then, a crash, the sound of glass shattering. Emma spun toward it just as Wayne's silhouette stepped into the hallway, crowbar glinting in the flashlight beam. Where is she? He snarled. Get out, Emma shouted, raising the tranquilizer gun. He laughed darkly. You think that'll stop me? But before he could move, Daisy lunged through the open doorway. Her growl was thunderous, primal. The sound of every ounce of pain and protection she'd ever known exploding at once. Wayne stumbled backward as Daisy hit him full force, knocking the crowbar from his hand. He cursed, struggling, but she stood her ground between him and the puppies. Daisy, no, Emma cried. But it was too late. The dog wasn't attacking to kill. She was defending her family. Wayne shoved her off and scrambled for the door, clutching his bleeding arm. "You'll regret this," he spat, retreating into the night. Sirens wailed moments later. Sheriff Hayes, arriving just in time to see Wayne's truck speeding down the dirt road. Emma collapsed beside Daisy, tears streaming down her face. "You brave, foolish, wonderful girl." Hayes rushed in. "You okay?" Emma nodded shakily. He tried to take her. Hayes looked at Daisy, bleeding from a shallow cut, panting heavily. "We'll find him. I swear it." He turned to his deputy. "Get a roadblock up, now." As dawn broke, the clinic was filled with the soft cries of the puppies once again. Emma bandaged Daisy's wounds, whispering soothingly. "You saved them all," she said, her voice trembling. "You saved me." Daisy licked her hand weakly, then rested her head beside her pups. Emma looked out the window as sunlight spilled across the fields. The world looked peaceful again, but she knew it was a fragile peace. Wayne Porter was still out there, and the battle for Daisy's freedom was far from over. Some scars fade from the skin, but the ones carved into the heart have a way of reminding you that safety is never promised, only fought for. The morning sun rose pale and cold over the Carter Veterinary Clinic, washing the world in quiet gold. To anyone passing by, it might have looked like an ordinary country morning, dew on the grass, birds chattering on the fence posts, but inside, the air still trembled with what had happened. Broken glass glittered near the back door. The smell of antiseptic mixed with the faint metallic tang of blood. Emma hadn't slept, not a second. She sat slumped in the chair beside Daisy's recovery pen, her head resting against the metal bars, her eyes heavy but unwilling to close. Daisy lay beside her puppies, breathing slow and shallow, bandages wrapped around her shoulder, stained slightly pink where the wound had reopened. But even in pain, she kept her gaze on the door, ever alert, as if she feared that man might return at any moment. When Lucas arrived just after dawn, his face went pale at the sight of the shattered window and the exhausted vet. "Doc, what the hell happened here?" Emma turned to him, her voice hoarse. He came back. Wayne Porter broke in. Daisy stopped him. Lucas's jaw tightened. "Is she?" "She'll live," Emma said softly. "Barely a deep cut, but she's weak again." She pushed herself too hard. Lucas exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I can't believe it. I thought Ace said he did patrols." "He did," Emma said quietly, "but monsters don't wait for daylight." Sheriff Hayes arrived a short while later, his cruiser kicking up dust as it pulled into the driveway. He stepped out, looking grim, his hat pulled low against the rising sun. "Emma," he greeted solemnly, taking in the damage. "You all right?" "I'm fine," she said. "Daisy's the one who took the hit." Hayes walked over to the recovery pen. Daisy's ears flattened, but she didn't growl. She seemed to know he wasn't a threat. "She's a brave one," Hayes murmured. "You can see it in her eyes." Emma nodded, her own eyes misting. "She saved us all last night. If she hadn't, she did." Hayes interrupted gently. "And now it's my turn to make sure he never comes near you again." He reached into his pocket and placed a small evidence bag on her desk. Inside was the blood-stained crowbar Wayne had dropped. "We got his fingerprints, his truck plate, and now a clear assault charge," Hayes said. "But the man knows these back roads better than anyone. He's not dumb. He'll hide before he runs." Emma's stomach twisted. "So he's still out there?" Hayes nodded slowly. "Yes, but we're not sitting still. I've got roadblocks set up, and I'm working with the county sheriff to widen the search." He paused, his gaze softening. "I also need you to be careful. Keep someone with you at all times. If you can stay somewhere else for a few days, do it." Emma shook her head. "I can't leave Daisy or the puppies. This clinic is the only home they have." Hayes sighed. "Then we'll keep a deputy nearby, day and night. You're under protection now. Document." That afternoon, the clinic felt different. Quiet, heavy. Every sound seemed sharper. The puppies whined softly, their little tails twitching, unaware of the danger that hovered just outside their world. Emma tried to focus on work, feeding, cleaning, checking vitals. But her mind drifted constantly to last night, the flash of the crowbar, the terror in Daisy's bark, the look in Wayne's eyes, cold, unrepentant. Lucas stayed close, helping with repairs. He hammered new boards over broken window, while Emma replaced the shredded curtains. "You think he'll really come back?" Lucas asked, trying to sound casual but failing. Emma hesitated. "If he still sees her as property, yes. People like him don't stop until someone makes them." Lucas looked toward Daisy, his jaw tightening. "Then he'll have to go through all of us this time." Emma smiled faintly. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." As night fell again, A soft drizzle began outside. The world glowed faintly orange under the clinic's porch light. Sheriff Hayes' deputy parked across the road, engine idling, a quiet guardian against the dark. Inside, Emma prepared Daisy's medicine. The shepherd lifted her head weakly, eyes tired but alert. "Hey, brave girl," Emma whispered. "You've done enough fighting. Just rest now." Daisy's eyes met hers, deep, soulful, full of trust. She gently licked Emma's hand, as if saying thank you. The puppies stirred, squirming toward their mother's warmth. Watching them, Emma felt something inside her break and mend all at once. There was still beauty here, still innocence worth protecting. She sat beside Daisy for hours, the rhythmic sound of the rain soothing her. But every shadow that passed outside still made her heart skip. 2 days passed, then 3. No sign of Wayne. Reports came in, neighbors spotting a truck near the riverbank, a stranger asking about a vet clinic. But every lead led nowhere. Wayne was always one step ahead. Emma began sleeping on a cot beside Daisy's pen. The deputy, Officer Reynolds, checked in hourly, his flashlight beam cutting across the windows. But the longer the tension stretched, the more it wore on them all. Lucas finally spoke what they all feared. What if he's just waiting, watching us? Emma's hands trembled slightly as she poured Daisy's food. Then we keep watching back. On the 5th day, a breakthrough came. Sheriff Hayes returned, his face serious but charged with purpose. "Emma," he said, stepping inside. "We found his truck." Her heart jumped. "Where?" "Abandoned off Highway 23 near the river. He stripped the plates and left it hidden under brush." "Is he?" "Gone," Hayes said, "but we found fresh footprints heading into the woods. It's rough terrain out there, old hunting cabins, mining shafts. He could be holed up anywhere." Emma glanced toward Daisy. "You'll find him, won't you?" Hayes' eyes hardened. "I swear it." That evening, Lucas stayed late again, despite Emma's protests. "No way I'm leaving you alone tonight," he said firmly. They sat in the small kitchen area, sharing coffee in silence. The storm outside had returned, wind howling through the eaves. "You ever think about just leaving all this?" Lucas asked suddenly. Emma blinked. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "The clinic, the stress. You could move somewhere quiet, open a small practice by the ocean, start fresh." Emma smiled faintly. "And leave all my patients behind? Not a chance. This place, it's not just work. Lucas, it's home." He looked at her for a long moment. "Then we'll protect it, no matter what." Before Emma could answer, Daisy's ears perked up. She let out a low growl, eyes fixed on the back door. Lucas frowned. "You hear that?" A faint sound carried through the wind, a crunch of gravel. Emma's heart raced. Reynolds is outside. Maybe it's him. But when Lucas peered through the front window, his voice came out tight. "His car's gone." "What?" "He's not out there," Lucas whispered. The lights flickered once, then went out again. Emma's blood turned to ice. "Not again," she breathed. The generator kicked in a few seconds later, bathing the clinic in dim emergency light. But the silence that followed was worse. Then came a noise from the barn behind the clinic. Metal scraping. Lucas grabbed the flashlight, jaw tight. "Stay here." "No," Emma said, grabbing her coat. "We go together." They stepped outside, rain slashing their faces. The beam cut through the storm as they approached the barn. "Who's there?" Lucas shouted. No answer, only the creak of the door, half open, swaying in the wind. Emma's stomach dropped. Inside, they found Officer Reynolds slumped against the wall, alive, but dazed, a bruise forming on his temple. "Wayne," he rasped. "He hit me. He's..." A gunshot cracked through the air. Lucas grabbed Emma, pulling her down behind the feed barrels. "Get down." The bullet splintered with inches from her head. Somewhere in the darkness, Wayne's voice rang out, furious, ragged. "You think you can take what's mine?" Emma's pulse thundered in her ears. Daisy barked from the clinic, frantic, sensing danger. "Emma," Lucas shouted over the storm. "We have to move." Another gunshot tore through the night. The rain poured harder, the thunder roaring like some angry god above them. Emma clutched Lucas's arm, her voice trembling. "He's here for Daisy. We can't let him near her." Lucas nodded. "Then we end this. Tonight, back inside the clinic." Daisy was pacing, barking wildly. The puppies whimpered, pressing close together. Emma and Lucas dashed back inside just as another flash of lightning split the sky. And in that moment of light, she saw him, Wayne Porter, standing outside the window, his face pale and rain-soaked, eyes burning with obsession. He mouthed 2 words through the glass. "She's mine." Sometimes bravery isn't about strength. It's about standing your ground when everything in you screams to run. Rain hammered the roof like 1,000 fists. The world outside the clinic had dissolved into shadow and storm. Inside, every light flickered with the rhythm of the wind. Emma Carter pressed her back to the wall, her heart slamming against her ribs as she stared toward the window where Wayne Porter had just been. But when the next flash of lightning came, he was gone. Lucas swore under his breath, "He's playing with us." Emma's voice trembled but stayed firm. "No, he's hunting." In the recovery room, Daisy barked again, louder, sharper, the sound raw with fear and fury. Her puppies whimpered. Huddled in the corner of their box, Emma grabbed the tranquilizer gun from the counter, checking the cartridge. "It's all I've got." Lucas picked up a wrench from the tool tray. "Then it'll have to do." They moved carefully down the hallway. The clinic creaked in the wind. Somewhere outside, a door slammed. The deputy was still unconscious in the barn, rain pouring through the broken roof. Emma wanted to run to him, but she couldn't risk leaving Daisy and the pups alone. She took a deep breath, whispering, "He wants her. He won't stop until he gets her." Lucas glanced back. "Then we make sure he doesn't." A crash shattered the silence. The front door. Both of them froze. Rain blew in through the open doorway as Wayne stepped inside, a shadow against the lightning. His jacket clung to him, soaked through, his face wild, unshaven, his eyes burning with something between madness and grief. He raised the pistol. "Step aside, document." Emma's fingers tightened on the tranquilizer gun. "Not a chance." Wayne's voice cracked. "You don't understand. That dog, she's all I got left. You think she ran because she hated me? She ran because of you people. You and your rules." Emma's anger broke through her fear. "She ran because you broke her, because you used her." "Shut up," he roared, slamming his fist against the doorframe. The gun wavered slightly. Daisy barked again from the recovery pen, sensing him, her body tense, her teeth bared. Wayne's voice softened suddenly, almost pleading. "Easy, girl. You remember me, don't you?" "Daisy, come on now, come home." Emma shook her head. "She is home." Another thunderclap ripped across the sky. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed them whole. Emma felt rather than saw Wayne moving. The sound of boots on tile, heavy, determined. She raised a tranquilizer gun and fired. A soft hiss, then a grunt. Lightning flashed again. Wayne staggered, clutching his arm, the syringe dart buried in his sleeve. But the tranquilizer was weak, meant for dogs half his size. He tore it out, blood mixing with rain. "You'll regret that," he snarled, firing wildly. Glass shattered. Shells exploded. Emma ducked behind the counter, heart racing. Lucas shouted, "Emma, move!" and dove beside her. Bullets rang in her ears, deafening. Then silence. She risked a glance. The front room was wrecked, the window blown out, rain streaming in. Wayne was gone. Where'd he go? Lucas hissed. Emma listened. Above the storm, she heard it, a faint creak. The recovery door. Her stomach dropped. The dogs. They sprinted down the hall. Daisy stood at the front of her pen, growling, teeth gleaming in the dim light. Her puppies whimpered behind her. Wayne was there, crouched near the latch, one hand on the cage. His pistol lay on the floor a few feet away, out of reach. "Don't," Emma warned. He didn't even look at her. "She's mine," he muttered, voice trembling. "She was my best. You don't know what she's worth." Emma's voice broke. "She's not worth anything. She's alive. She has babies. She's free." Something flickered across his face. Pain, guilt, then rage. Free? There's no such thing. Not for her. Not for me. He lunged for the cage. Daisy erupted. She hit the bars with such force the latch bent sideways. In one motion, she pushed through, limping, wounded, but fierce as lightning. Wayne stumbled back, shouting, "Stay down!" But Daisy didn't stop. She launched forward, knocking him to the ground. The gun skidded across the floor, spinning under a counter. Wayne fought back, shoving her off, his hands grappling for control. She bit down, not to kill, but to stop. A desperate, protective strike. "Daisy!" Emma screamed. Lucas rushed forward, wrench raised. But Wayne swung wildly, catching him in the shoulder. They both fell hard against the counter, glass raining around them. Emma grabbed the fallen pistol. Cold, heavy reel. She pointed it, her hands shaking. "Stop. It's over." Wayne froze. Daisy stood over him, chest heaving, teeth bared inches from his face. The room filled with silence, broken only by the sound of rain. For a moment, Emma thought he might surrender. His eyes met hers, wild and hollow. Then he laughed, soft, broken. "You think this ends with me?" He reached for something under his jacket. Another small weapon glinting faintly. Emma didn't think. She fired. The sound was deafening. Wayne collapsed, clutching his side, gasping. The weapon fell from his hand, clattering harmlessly. Lucas grabbed it quickly, tossing it aside. Emma's hands trembled, the pistol slipping from her grasp. She sank to her knees beside Daisy, who whimpered softly, blood streaking her fur again. "Easy, sweetheart, easy," Emma whispered, tears streaming. "You're safe. It's done." Sheriff Hayes burst through the door moments later, soaked to the bone, deputies behind him. He froze at the scene, the overturned tables, shattered glass, Wayne Porter bleeding on the floor, Daisy standing guard over her puppies. "Jesus Christ," he muttered, rushing to Emma. "You all right?" Emma nodded weakly. "It's over." Hayes knelt beside Wayne, checking his pulse. "Still alive. Barely. Get an ambulance here now," he shouted to his men. Then he turned back to Emma. "You saved her life again. Document." Emma shook her head. "No, she saved mine." Outside, red and blue lights painted the rain-slick road. Paramedics lifted Wayne into the ambulance, his face pale, his eyes vacant. He didn't speak. He just stared at Daisy through the open door. A strange mixture of hatred and sorrow. When the doors closed, Emma felt her knees give out. Lucas caught her, steadying her. "You did what you had to," he said softly. Emma's voice broke. "I didn't want any of this. I just wanted to help her." Lucas squeezed her shoulder. "And you did." "Look at her." Daisy lay beside her puppies, exhausted, her eyes half closed but peaceful. For the first time since Emma had found her, she wasn't trembling. She wasn't afraid. Sheriff Hayes approached quietly. He'll face charges for assault, illegal breeding, and attempted murder. But even if he pulls through, he's done. Daisy's safe now. Emma wiped her tears. "Safe," she repeated. The word fragile but real. That night, when the lights were finally fixed and the storm eased, Emma sat beside Daisy's pen. The puppies slept in a warm pile, tiny bodies breathing in rhythm. Daisy lifted her head and rested it on Emma's knee. "Hey there, hero," Emma whispered, stroking her fur. "You can rest now. No one's ever taking you away again." Daisy's tail thumped once against the blanket, slow, content. Outside, dawn began to break. The first rays of light touched the horizon, painting the soaked fields in gold. For the first time in weeks, the air felt light again. Lucas stepped in quietly, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "Couldn't sleep?" Emma smiled faintly. "Didn't want to." He glanced at Daisy and the pups. "They'll need names soon." Emma looked down at the smallest puppy, a tiny black and tan girl curled against her mother's chest. "She already has one," she said softly. "Hope." As the morning sun filled the clinic, Sheriff Hayes stopped by once more. "Just want to let you know," he said, "Porter's under guard at County General. He's not going anywhere." Emma nodded. "Thank you, Sheriff." Hayes tipped his hat. "You did good." Document. "The world needs more folks like you." When he left, Emma sat back down, watching Daisy and her litter. The clinic smelled of disinfectant, rain, and new beginnings. She whispered, "You're safe now, Daisy. All of you." The shepherd sighed, eyes closing as sleep finally took her. And for the first time in a long while, the world outside the Carter Veterinary Clinic was quiet. No footsteps in the dark, no threats on the wind, only peace, fragile and beautiful. Sometimes the fiercest battles are fought not with teeth or claws, but with love strong enough to defy the storm. Outside, the wind screamed like a wounded animal. Branches whipped against the clinic windows, rain hammering in angry sheets. The storm had rolled in fast, dark clouds swallowing the evening sky, just as Sheriff Tom and Emma returned from town. Inside, the clinic lights flickered, casting long, trembling shadows over the operating tables and kennels. Daisy lay curled beside her newborn puppies, her breathing shallow but steady. The tiny pups nestled close, their soft whimpers drowned by the roar of thunder overhead. Tom locked the door and glanced at the power monitor. "We're running on backup. If this keeps up, we might lose it completely." Emma shivered, hugging her arms. "Do you think he's out there?" Tom's jaw tightened. He didn't have to ask who he was. Wayne Porter, the man whose cruelty had started all of this, and who disappeared after threatening to make Tom pay for interfering. "I don't know," Tom said quietly, "but we're ready if he is." A flash of lightning illuminated the clinic's outer yard, the silhouette of the old oak tree twisting in the wind, the chain-link fence rattling like metal bones. For a second, Emma thought she saw a movement by the gate. "Dad," she whispered, "something's out there." Tom moved the window, squinting through the rain. Another flash, empty yard. Nothing, but his gut twisted anyway. He'd seen that trick before. Move, disappear, make them doubt. He turned back to Emma, locked the back door, keep Daisy calm. As Emma knelt beside Daisy, the German shepherd lifted her head weakly. Her fur was still matted from birth, her eyes tired but sharp, always tracking Emma, always watching. "Hey, girl," Emma murmured, stroking her muzzle. "You're safe, okay?" "We all are." Daisy's ear twitched at the sound of her voice. Even weak, she pressed her nose against Emma's hand, as if promising to protect her no matter what. Then, crack, a loud pop outside, metal scraping. Emma jumped to her feet. "Dad." Tom was already reaching for his flashlight and the shotgun he kept behind the counter. "Stay here." The front porch light flickered once, then went out. Tom opened the clinic door slowly. Rain slashed across his face. He aimed the flashlight toward the gate. One of the hinges hung loose, swaying violently in the wind. But that wasn't what made his heart drop. Footprints, fresh ones, deep, heavy, leading straight to the back of the property. Damn it, he hissed. He closed the door quickly, locking it again. Emma, listen to me. Someone's been here. Get the phone. Call Sheriff Harlow. Tell him it's Wayne. Emma's face paled. What about you? I'll check the barn. If he's here, that's where he'll be. As Tom stepped outside again, the wind nearly knocked him over. The barn loomed at the edge of the property, its doors banging open and shut with each gust. He approached carefully, shotgun raised. Inside, the smell of damp hay and motor oil hit him. The storm made the old rafters groan. He swept the flashlight across the room. Empty stalls, tools hanging on the wall, rain dripping through cracks in the roof. Then a movement in the shadows. Wayne, Tom called out, voice hard. Show yourself. No answer. He took another step forward, and the beam of light caught something on the floor, a muddy boot print, fresh, leading deeper inside. All right, Tom said quietly. We're doing this. He moved slowly, every nerve alert. Then, a sound behind him. Footsteps. He spun. Too late. A blur lunged from the shadows, knocking him to the ground. The shotgun clattered away. Wayne Porter loomed above him, rainwater dripping off his coat, his eyes wild. You took everything from me. Wayne roared, swinging a fist. Tom blocked it, grunting from the impact. You abused her. Wayne, that dog nearly died because of you. She's mine. Wayne shouted. You think you can take what's mine and just... Tom slammed his shoulder forward, sending Wayne stumbling back into a stack of crates. They crashed down, scattering tools and straw. Tom scrambled for his shotgun, but Wayne grabbed a pitchfork from the floor, brandishing it like a spear. Back in the clinic, Emma clutched the phone. Come on, answer, she whispered, heart pounding. Static. The storm had knocked out the lines. She turned toward Daisy, who was struggling to stand. No, girl, stay down, please. But Daisy wouldn't listen. Her ears pricked up. She could hear the fight outside. Every yell, every crash of wood. Her mother's instinct kicked in like a switch. Emma tried to hold her back, but Daisy nudged her hand away, eyes locked on the door. Okay, Emma whispered tearfully. Okay, go. Daisy limped forward, her body weak but her heart burning with purpose. In the barn, Tom barely dodged as Wayne swung the pitchfork. Metal scraped his arm, leaving a bloody line. He gritted his teeth, lunging forward to tackle Wayne into the hay. The weapon flew out of his hand. You don't deserve her, Tom shouted. She's not yours to hurt anymore. Wayne spat, struggling beneath him. You think you're some kind of hero? You're just like the rest. Think animals are better than people. Tom's grip tightened. Sometimes they are. Then came the growl. Low, deep, both men froze. From the barn doorway, a shadow appeared, drenched in rain, for bristling, eyes blazing like embers. Daisy. She limped toward them, teeth bared, a sound so fierce it made Wayne back up instinctively. Stay back, girl, Tom said softly. It's okay. But Daisy's gaze wasn't on Tom. It was fixed on Wayne, the man whose hands had caused her so much pain. Wayne sneered. You should have died in that cage. That was the last thing he said before Daisy lunged. The impact sent Wayne crashing to the ground, his arm shielding his face as Daisy's jaws clamped around his coat sleeve. He screamed, thrashing, trying to throw her off. Tom grabbed the shotgun, aiming. Daisy stopped, but Daisy wasn't killing. She was defending, holding Wayne down, snarling, her eyes wide with fury and fear. Rain poured to the open doors, lightning flashing like a camera shutter. Tom kicked the pitchfork away and shouted, It's over, Wayne. Wayne froze, Daisy's teeth inches from his neck. He looked up at Tom's steady aim, and for the first time, he saw something colder than steel. Conviction. The kind of conviction that ends things. Sheriff Harlow's siren pierced the storm minutes later. Officers flooded the yard, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Tom stood outside the barn, soaked, bloody, but alive. Daisy lay beside him, exhausted, her body trembling. Emma ran to her, falling to her knees. Daisy, she cried, wrapping her arms around her. You did it, girl. You saved Dad. Daisy licked her cheek once, then closed her eyes, finally letting herself rest. Tom placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. Let's get her inside. As they carried Daisy back toward the warm light of the clinic, lightning cracked again, but this time it felt different, like the storm was breaking, not raging. When the storm finally broke, it wasn't thunder that filled the air. It was a sound of hope, fragile but alive. The first rays of dawn crept slowly across the wet fields. The rain had stopped sometime before sunrise, leaving the world glistening and still. Every leaf, every blade of grass jeweled with morning light. Inside the clinic, silence reigned. Not the tense silence of fear, but the kind that comes after survival. Emma sat on the floor beside Daisy's recovery bed, her back against the wall, eyes red from crying but calm now. Daisy slept, her breathing soft and steady. The pups nestled close against her belly, tiny bodies rising and falling with her rhythm. Tom stood nearby, his arm bandaged, a cup of black coffee cooling in his hand. Sheriff Harlow had left hours ago. After Wayne was taken into custody, the charges would be plenty: cruelty, trespassing, assault. But right now, none of that mattered. What mattered was that Daisy was alive. Emma brushed her fingers through Daisy's fur, whispering softly, "You were so brave, girl. You saved us all." Daisy stirred slightly, one ear twitching at the sound. She opened her eyes just enough to see Emma's face, and that was enough to make her tail move, the faintest wag brushing against the blanket. Tom smiled faintly. "That's the best medicine she's going to get." Emma looked up at him. "Do you think she'll be okay?" He nodded slowly. "She's a fighter. She's proved that more than once." Then he knelt beside Emma, setting his cup aside. "You know, I've been a vet for almost 20 years. I've seen animals do incredible things, survive wounds, find their way home across miles. But I've never seen anything like her." Emma looked at Daisy, her eyes full of awe. "She's not just surviving. It's like she understands." Tom smiled softly. "Maybe she does." As the morning warmed, a golden hush filled the room. The smell of rain faded, replaced by the scent of clean hay and warm fur. Outside, the sun climbed higher, turning the puddles into mirrors that caught the light like liquid glass. Tom opened the door to let in fresh air. Birds were singing again, the kind of sound you don't notice until it's gone for too long. Emma looked out and whispered, "It's so quiet." Tom nodded. After every storm, there's always quiet. Sometimes that's the part that feels the strangest. By mid-morning, the clinic had visitors. Margaret, the older woman who ran the animal shelter in town, arrived with a thermos of soup and 2 steaming mugs of tea. She gasped when she saw Daisy, then smiled through tears. "Oh, bless her heart," she whispered. "That dog's got more courage than most folks I know." Tom nodded. "She's resting now, but she'll make it, thanks to Emma." Margaret turned Emma, eyes soft. "You've got your daddy's heart, dear. Don't ever lose that." Emma smiled shyly. "I just did what anyone would have done." But Margaret shook her head. "No, sweetheart. Not everyone listens to their heart when it's hard. You did." She set the soup down on the counter. "And when Daisy's strong enough, I'll help you find homes for the puppies. Though something tells me you might be keeping one." Emma laughed, her cheeks flushing. Maybe, as the day went on, the world seemed to breathe again. The clouds thinned, the wind softened, and sunlight streamed through the windows, falling across Daisy's bed like a blessing. Emma drew little names on a notepad beside the litter of pups. Hope, Scout, River, Star. Each tiny heartbeat carried a story, not just of survival, but of second chances. Tom watched her from across the room, a quiet smile on his face. For the first time in a long time, the clinic didn't feel like just a place of work. It felt like home. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Tom and Emma sat outside on the porch steps. The smell of damp earth filled the air, and frogs croaked softly near the pond. Emma leaned her head against her father's shoulder. "Do you think Daisy remembers what he did to her?" Tom took a long breath before answering. "Maybe she does, but she doesn't let it define her." He looked out at the fading light. "You know, animals don't hold grudges like people do. They just move on. They find love again, even when they've been broken. There's a lesson in that." Emma smiled faintly. "She forgave us before we even earned it." Tom nodded. "That's what makes her special." Inside, Daisy shifted in her sleep, one paw twitching. A soft whine escaped her, but it wasn't fear. It was contentment. Her puppy stirred, pressing closer to her warmth. The sound of Emma's laughter drifted through the open door, mixing with the hum of crickets. For the first time, Daisy wasn't dreaming of cages or pain. She dreamed of open fields, of Emma's gentle hands, of sunlight that didn't burn. She dreamed of home. Late that night, Tom went back inside to check on her. The clinic lights were dim, the air cool and still. He knelt beside Daisy, running a gentle hand over her head. "You did good, girl," he whispered. "Better than any of us." Daisy opened her eyes halfway, looked at him for a long moment, then rested her head on his knee. Tom smiled, a tired, grateful smile. "You rest now. You've earned it." He stood up, walking to the window. Outside, the moon hung over the soaked fields, silver and soft. Somewhere far off, thunder rolled one last time, a distant echo of what had been. But inside this little clinic, everything was calm. Daisy's pups snuggled closer to her. Emma's drawings of their names lay scattered across the counter. The old clock ticked gently, marking a piece that felt almost sacred. And for the first time since the chaos began, Tom allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they were all going to be okay. Sometimes healing doesn't happen in a moment. It happens in the quiet days that follow, in every heartbeat that dares to begin again. 2 months had passed since the night of the storm. The memory of it still lived quietly in the corners of the clinic, the scratches on the barn door, the patch of wall where lightning had scorched the paint. But the pain that once haunted those memories had softened into something else. Daisy was walking again. Not perfectly. There was still a limp in her step, but she moved with new strength, her tail wagging gently every time Emma entered the room. The puppies, now healthy and bold, stumbled around her legs like little explorers discovering the world for the first time. Tom had turned one of the storage rooms into a play area for them, lined with blankets, toys, and a wide patch of sunlight that poured in through the windows each morning. Emma loved to sit there before school, surrounded by the sound of tiny paws and happy squeaks. Her favorite puppy, a small female with one white paw and curious green eyes, had been named Hope. It was Emma's idea. She was the first one who opened her eyes, she told Tom one morning, giggling as Hope tugged at her shoelace. She didn't wait for anyone else. She just wanted to see the world. Tom smiled. She takes after her mama. News of Daisy's bravery had spread through the small town faster than wildfire. Everyone in Millstone Valley had heard the story. How a mistreated dog had found the courage to save her rescuer from a man who once hurt her. Soon, people began showing up at the clinic, not just for medical visits, but to meet Daisy. Children brought her treats and soft blankets. An elderly couple donated supplies for the puppies. A local bakery even made bone-shaped cookies with her name on them, donating the proceeds to the town's animal shelter. The once quiet clinic now hummed with laughter and kindness. It wasn't just a place of healing for animals anymore. It had become a symbol of compassion. One afternoon, Tom stood by the front desk, looking at the newspaper clipping framed on the wall. The photo below showed Daisy sitting beside Emma, surrounded by her puppies, sunlight falling across their faces. He smiled softly. "You made the front page, girl," he murmured. Daisy, lying on her blanket nearby, thumped her tail once in reply. As spring arrived, the valley bloomed in color. The fields behind the clinic were alive with wildflowers, and the river that once flooded during the storm now shimmered gently under the sun. Tom, who had always been too busy to notice seasons passing, found himself taking slower walks these days, always with Daisy aside. He talked to her the way people do when they know their listener understands without words. He told her about the long nights after his wife died, about how he thought he'd lost a part of himself that could feel joy again. "You brought it back," he whispered one evening as they stood by the fence line. Daisy pressed against his leg, her head resting against his knee. Sometimes the best kind of conversation is the silent kind. Emma's world had changed too. Her drawings, once filled with lonely skies and quiet fields, now overflowed with life. Dogs, trees, rivers, stars. She started volunteering with Margaret at the shelter every weekend, helping care for abandoned animals. "She's got your gift," Margaret told Tom one day, smiling as Emma bottle-fed a stray kitten. "And your stubbornness, too." Tom chuckled. "I'll take that as a compliment." Margaret nodded. "It is, because it means she's going to make this world a softer place." By early summer, it was time to find homes for Daisy's pups. Families from all over came to adopt, drawn not just by the story, but by something deeper, the sense that these little lives had come from something miraculous. One by one, the pups went to loving families. Tears were shed, hugs exchanged, promises made. By the end of the week, only one pup remained. Hope. Emma had known from the start she couldn't let her go. "She belongs here," she told her dad firmly. "Daisy needs her. I need her." Tom laughed softly. "I knew this day was coming." He knelt down beside Daisy and Hope. "Looks like the family is officially bigger now." One golden afternoon, they took a trip down to the river, the same one that had flooded during the storm. Now it was calm and sparkling, reflecting the sky like glass. Emma ran along the bank, laughing as Hope chased butterflies. Daisy followed at her own pace, her limp barely noticeable now. Tom watched them from the truck, his heart swelling in his chest. It struck him how much had changed, and how much had healed. The pain, the fear, the storm, it had all led here, to this moment of peace. When Emma finally came running back, breathless and smiling, she wrapped her arms around Daisy's neck. "You're the bravest girl in the whole world," she whispered. Daisy's tail wagged gently, her eyes half closed in quiet contentment. That evening, the three of them sat outside the clinic porch again, the same spot where months ago they had watched the storm roll in. Now the air was warm and full of life. Fireflies blinked in the tall grass. The sound of crickets rose in steady rhythm. Emma leaned her head on Tom's shoulder. "Do you ever think about that night?" she asked softly. He nodded. "Every day." "Do you still feel scared?" Tom smiled faintly. "No, not anymore. You know why?" "Why?" He looked at Daisy, lying at their feet, her head resting beside Hope's, because she taught me that even when life breaks you down, there's always something worth fighting for. Emma followed his gaze, her eyes glistening. And someone worth loving. Tom nodded. Exactly. As the last light faded, the sound of the wind to the trees reminded them not of danger, but calm, like the earth was sighing in relief. Daisy raised her head, her ears twitching toward the open field. She stood slowly, gazing out at the horizon as if she could see something far beyond it. Tom watched her. What do you see, girl? Daisy didn't move for a long moment. Then she turned back, her eyes soft and glowing. Whatever she saw, it was enough. That night, the clinic lights glowed warm and steady against the darkness. Inside, Emma wrote something in her notebook before bed. It wasn't a diary entry or a drawing. It was a letter. To Daisy, it began. You showed me that strength isn't about how loud you bark, but how quietly you love. You showed me that healing takes time, but it always comes. And you reminded me that sometimes the smallest heartbeat can make the biggest difference. She folded the paper gently and placed it beside Daisy's bed before turning off the light. Daisy lifted her head just long enough to nuzzle it with her nose before closing her eyes again. The world outside was quiet, peaceful. Oh, some stories never end. They live on in the hearts they healed, in the lives they touched, and in the quiet spaces where love once saved everything. 3 years later, the town of Millstone Valley looked almost the same oak trees shading Main Street, the same dusty road winding past the old bakery, the same gentle rhythm of life. But for those who had lived through the storm, everything felt different, softer, kinder. The veterinary clinic had a new sign now, carved in smooth cedar. It read, Daisy's Haven Animal Clinic, where every life deserves a second chance. It had been Tom's idea, but Emma was the one who painted the little paw print beneath the words. Every morning, sunlight poured over that sign like a blessing, and people would stop just to smile before continuing their day. Inside the clinic, the air buzzed with gentle energy. Puppies barked, kittens purred, and the smell of hay and disinfectant mixed with something warmer, the feeling of hope. Daisy was older now, her muzzle dusted with silver, but her spirit hadn't dimmed. She still greeted every patient that came through the door, her tail wagging softly, her eyes calm and wise. Hope, her daughter, had grown into a strong, confident German shepherd, full of life and curiosity. She followed Emma everywhere, always ready to play or comfort anyone who needed it. Sometimes, when the clinic was quiet, Daisy and Hope would lie together near the reception desk, their heads resting side by side, a living reminder of how far they'd all come. Tom stood behind the counter one morning, flipping through patient records, when the doorbell chimed. A young woman entered, holding a small, trembling puppy wrapped in a towel. Her eyes were full of worry. Please, she said breathlessly. I found him by the highway. I didn't know where else to go. Tom smiled gently. You came to the right place. As he reached the puppy, Daisy approached, sniffing gently before lying down beside the table. The trembling pup hesitated, then slowly crept toward her, nuzzling under her chin. The woman gasped. He stopped shaking. Tom nodded, smiling softly. She has that effect on everyone. When he looked at Daisy, she met his gaze with that same look she'd given him years ago, the one that said, You saved me. Now let me help others. And that's exactly what she did. Emma, now older and more confident, had started her own little project at the clinic, the Daisy Project, a community program where kids learn about compassion, animal care, and kindness. Every Saturday, a small group of children gathered in the clinic yard to help feed, groom, and walk rescue animals. Emma led them, Hope at her side, while Daisy lay in the shade, watching like a proud guardian. Remember, Emma would tell them, kneeling to their level, every life matters, no matter how small, scared, or broken. Sometimes all they need is someone to believe in them. And every time she said it, she thought of that night, the storm, the fear, the way Daisy had stood between them in danger. That memory never faded. It didn't hurt anymore. It simply glowed. One quiet afternoon, as the sun began to set behind the fields, Tom stood outside the clinic, leaning against the porch railing. The sky was painted in streaks of orange and gold, the air sweet with blooming clover. He watched Emma walking along the field with Hope bounding ahead and Daisy trailing behind, slower now but content. He took a deep breath, feeling the years settle on him gently. Margaret joined him on the porch, carrying 2 mugs of tea. She's getting older, she said softly, nodding toward Daisy. Tom smiled wistfully. Yeah, we all are. She's had a good life, though, Margaret said. Better than most. Tom nodded. She's given one, too.